What is going on, guys? Happy Monday. I hope everybody had an awesome weekend, Valentine's Day. I hope you're spending all the time with the loved ones. Listen, man, a lot of things are happening. Sonium's on fire. A-Star's on fire. We got a rock star panel for everybody today. We're going to be talking about everything between NFT bridging to NFTs on A-Star and Sonium. A lot of stuff is coming. What is up, guys? Everybody want to run around and introduce themselves. We got Sleazy, our CMO, Noodle, who is one of the community managers. He's the man. This guy is a beast with anything that has to do with social media, SEO. Like he's just a monster. We got Var over here, one of the heads of council over at A-Star Degens, and then one of the founders, right, Elon? NFT Bridges.
Yes, that's right. I'm the founder of NFT Bridges.
Let's go. And then we have Leb over here with Apex Chimps, man, representing. What is up, Leb?
Thank you, brother. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, all good, man. How's things with you?
Listen, man, going good. So I wanted to kick off. I knew we were gonna have a bunch of things. Go ahead.
Oh, actually, I want to ask: is it ape and chimps, or is it apex chimps, like apex predators?
So that would be Apex Chimps. So yeah, like Apex, yes. So the ape or the X stands for cross chain. So we just shortened it to X. Yeah, we can touch on that later.
Yeah, I was thinking like maybe the chimps are like the apex predators in the world that you're building or something.
They can be. Yeah, exactly, man. That's good imagination there. Yeah.
So let's talk about this. Let's jump into the nitty gritty. So now we finally see it. Sonium's live. It's going on like a month right now. You know, there's a lot of transactions coming on the DeFi side, which is standard. We see this all the time. I want to talk about the general industry, not just Sony. We would talk a little bit of everything. But jumping in right now, we can start with the market. We see the inflows and outflows are still holding pretty steady. We were just talking about this, all of us. So, you know, it's a good starting point of the actual market. Now, personally, after jumping in 15, this is radically different than 15 to 17 to 20, like 21. Like the last few cycles to me are just wild. Like, I don't think that we've really seen a cycle like this. It is a bull in a sense, but it feels more like a Bitcoin institutional bull. Like it's really hardly to say. Like, I think the height of ETH was far higher than where it is right now. And NFTs at one point were just absolutely outrageous. And I think it was inevitable that there was a market correction, pretty standard. I think we were trying to find what the floor is on these things and how to accurately price digital assets. And I think we're in that realm now where we're finally figuring out that value. But jumping into that, Var, how do you feel about that? I know we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, so for me, the way I look at it is there's just way more supply out there. There's so many different projects and so many different assets out there for people to choose from. It's different when there's just a little bit and there's first people to the market and things of that nature. But when you got 20, 30 different options and you got different classes like, you know, meme coins everybody's wanting to talk about, and then you got, you know, your stable coins, and you got, you know, gaming coins and AI and all these different narratives. You know, I just think that there's not as much liquidity yet, not as much money out there yet, and it's kind of being spread thin because there's just so many options, so many different coins being launched, so many different people telling to buy this and buy that, and you know, so I just think there's just so many options out there. It kind of hurts. Especially when people are kind of looking at it not from a fundamental standpoint and not from what does this asset do and what's the utility. They're looking at it almost like as a quick flip in some cases. So really it's the nature of the mindset of people coming in.
Yeah.
And then so many different options compared to other cycles. That's how I personally see it.
Okay. What about you, Elon? How do you feel about it? I mean, what do you think the biggest misconception people have in like 2025 for this bull market? It's radically different. Do you think there's a misconception or there was a hype that people thought was going to happen? I mean, how do you feel about the current state?
You know, I think that the hype happened because of the American elections. Mm-hmm. I think there was so much being said, written, and talked about in terms of how much the crypto industry contributed to the success of Donald Trump as being elected as the president. And everybody was sure that it's going to be really quick and the new administration is going to create favorable crypto regulations. And then Trump dropped his coin and everybody got crazy and it pushed Bitcoin above 100K, so there was a lot of excitement that people sure that's it, bull market. But it wasn't like that. It takes a long time to create actual regulation for the crypto market. I'm sure it's going to happen. I think that the founders of crypto companies who contributed to the Trump campaign did not do it in vain. I think they want regulation to happen, and I believe it will happen. It's just going to take time. So you saw what happened after that. When it didn't happen immediately, people got disappointed and saw that maybe the Trump meme coin is not worth that much, and dropped it. And I think also that the selection of asset right now is huge. I mean, there are much more classes of assets, and new classes are coming all the time. It seems that AI coins are going to be really important, and I'm looking at a bunch of companies who are actually making those tokens and making those tokenized agents and figuring out what to do with this type of asset. So I think that looking forward, I see, again, this is not financial advice in any way. I do see two things. I see a paring down. I see that a lot of assets that are not that quote unquote important or not that special might be losing audience, but collections and tokens and projects that actually have actual utility, things that people can use and can make money with, or can not, even if it's not really trading, but create actions with that will generate revenue for them, have a good chance of succeeding, as regulation will bring a huge amount of new people into the market that are just too afraid right now to deal with crypto.
That makes sense. So that makes perfect sense. Sleazy, I was going to ask you, particularly, do you think Web3 is finally becoming mainstream, or is it still just an insider's game?
Yeah, first to add to what Elon said, imagine if Trump Tower, like you get into a nice restaurant and they're like, we only accept payments in Trump coin.
Yeah, that would be nutty. But listen, that's coming. That's coming. People think it's a joke, man. Like I truly believe that we're going to get these hub economies where, and I think it's beautiful. It's amazing because think about it. It puts hands back into the power of the people. Like, listen, don't get me wrong. There is something to be said for a centralized currency, for congruency. Like, I get it. Like, you need to have that there because there's a type of stability that's there. But also, I think if you're really going to call yourself a democratic republic and we're really going to say, you know, hey, we want people to have the freedom of speech and freedom of just pushing this whole narrative, right? Because what is blockchain? It's about opportunity. It's about freedom. It's really what it represents. But that being said, I definitely want to get into that.
It's almost like memberships. It's almost like memberships.
Exactly what I would.
That's like a club. This is like a club. It's just a lot of this stuff is just enabling same old ideas, but just putting a new type of way and a spin on it. So right now, by having those particular coins being your gateway to access to something, it's just like clubs back in the day where, you know, to get in, you had to have your membership pass, you know, so similar.
I agree.
Like if you think about casinos, like everything in a casino is paid with chips, right? Well, not everything, but a lot of the games are paid with chips. So like chips are not really any different from cryptocurrency, right?
Shout out, we hit over 100 people fast, guys. This stream usually gets up to about 700 to 1,000 people, so let's get some shout outs to people at first. What's up, Raul? Shout out to Jeremy. What's up, Jeremy? What's up, Boosie? See you as always. Astar Dejan showing up to represent for the homie. What's up? Listen, guys, we see you guys. They're pouring in. Bridge EVM.
Boosie is the one. Boosie is the one who won our.
I love that name. I love that name, bro.
What's it called? Backstory competition. That's the one.
Okay. So bridged EVM Astar to Sonium. When can I buy Astar Degens to Sonium Bridge? We're gonna get into that today. Stay tuned. And we got Mamba. Shout out Mamba. Who else we got in here? What's going on, guys? Okay. We're getting there, guys. We see you. So now I was gonna say, so Sleazy, do you think Web3 is becoming mainstream, or is it still just an insider's game?
Yeah, and just I can't finish actually what I was saying.
No, go ahead. No, say what you're
saying. It's like I don't think Trump would ever do this kind of thing as adopting their coin, at least not anytime soon. But I think Elon, like, does anyone remember when Elon just bought Twitter and as a loading screen he put Doge icon?
Yeah,
like if he takes like a Dogecoin and puts it into the Doge, like the government thingy, I can actually see it happening. Like this was actually what I could see happening. Like I think out of all possibilities, this is one most likely. But other than that, so as far as how far it's until it is fully mainstream, I'm thinking probably not quite this bull market, which I'm not quite convinced that it's even started. We can get into that separately. But yeah, I think at the moment crypto is become like Bitcoin is definitely getting more attention. Like every time it's brought up, it's not that people are saying it's a scam or that people lost money. At the moment, they're saying, I remember when it was worth like under $1,000. And I thought it was ridiculous that anyone would buy one virtual coin for like almost $1,000, and now it's like, oh well, it's 100,000. Well, damn, I better like learn something about it because this thing is working. And so right. Like the first step is awareness, which I think everyone in the world now knows about Bitcoin, at the very least about Bitcoin. Maybe not everyone knows about Ethereum, but I think everyone knows about Bitcoin. So awareness. Maybe we're not quite as aware as we would like it to be because some people, like most people who know about Bitcoin, I think would not know what Web3 means. So I think this is the step on which we're on. I think the easiest way to overcome this would definitely be what we are doing, something like games, something like AI, because everyone knows what AI is, but not everyone knows what crypto is all about. So I think one of the key steps to mass awareness would be also our AI push, which we are doing.
Yeah, I think that's going to be pretty cool. I would agree. What about you, Ape? Leb, what about you, Leb? How do you feel about it?
The apex chimp himself.
That is me, man. I think there's many different perspectives you can come at this from. So for the regular retail user, I think nearly everybody in all corners of the world now know what crypto is. I think the biggest issue is barriers to adoption, which would be people being able to buy crypto on their phone, a few taps, have your own crypto wallet without even knowing you're using a wallet. But then you have the institutional perspective where we see ETFs getting approved, which I believe was one of the main drivers for this kind of mini bull we just had. Then obviously you had the Trump pump, but then his meme coin sucked the liquidity of absolutely everything in the market. And then unfortunately, in my opinion, some new people got involved with Trump's coin, but then they lost money that way. They got dumped on. Bitcoin is obviously king. Bitcoin is, reaching new all-time highs. Ethereum was lagging behind. But I believe that is because Bitcoin is a hard reserve currency. There's no inflation. But then, Bitcoin, there's an argument that Bitcoin is now the boomer of crypto, and that you can't do DeFi, you can't, like Solana, you can't make your own NFTs, etc. So there's many different kind of perspectives for that question.
No, it's great. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I got something real quick. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people that just think that Bitcoin is the only crypto in the world. Yeah. So outside, and to me, because I started training some different people and having discussions with a lot of different people when it comes to crypto, and a lot of people think when they hear crypto, all they think of is Bitcoin. They don't know that there's thousands and thousands and thousands of other coins. When you talk to like people that just have very little knowledge of the space and asset classes. So I do believe that one of the things that I'm looking at is, because we had this conversation earlier about with the Trump coin situation and what happened there, and people starting to see like the volatility, because they're the type of coins we're getting into, they don't understand what a meme coin is. They don't understand that this is lottery. So when a person sees that the coin went from $70 all the way down to 18 or whatever it dropped to, and they let me give you an example real quick. I had somebody call me like, "Hey, Var, should I put $1,500 in Trump coin?" I said, "Trump coin's at what?" And I looked at the thing, and it was $70. I think that it was like billions of dollars in that coin, and within a week or something like that, or a few days. And so I'm like, no, for it to double, it's going to have to do another 10 billion or whatever it went up to. I was like, absolutely don't put any money into that coin. It's a joke. It's literally like it's a meme coin. You know, there's no technology in there. So once the hype is going, the coin is going to drop. And so the people that don't have somebody they can talk to explain this type of information to, and they put their money in that, it's almost like you just got finished seeing like 10 people, and this is what I said earlier, put their finger in a socket and got electrocuted. Yeah. And now it's your turn to come up to the wall. Are you going to put your finger in there, or will you just stick to what you know hasn't stung people, which is Bitcoin? So
I get. No, that's good feedback. So Connor, what do you think the biggest misconception people still have about Web3 in 2025? Like, I know you're in the trenches, you're working, you're doing a lot of this stuff. So like, how do you feel about it?
Well, for me personally, from what I've seen and speaking to, especially people in sort of like my area, a lot of it is sort of the image that Web3 still has, especially within social media adoption and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, I guess the big one now, remember the Hawk Tour girl, Hayley Welch, and that whole pump and dump? That people were talking about that. They're still talking about it now. And that was a couple months ago. And then
isn't she disappear? Is she even still
gone?
Yeah,
she is off the face of the planet. No one knows what's happened to her. She's just taken the money and run.
Hey, listen, it happens.
Exactly. Exactly. It happens. So I think with that, if we're talking about sort of mainstream adoption, your average user, these are the stories they're hearing. They're hearing the pump and dumps. They're hearing the crashes. They're hearing people losing their money. So for an average, say like single mum, let's even talk about my mum. I was talking about investment opportunities, and she was like, "Oh, because she's old Irish, sort of like Catholic. She's skeptical about everything."
I would imagine.
And she's
wise for that. She's wise for that.
Yeah, and she's nervous because she's hearing all of these stories about obviously these scams, these big pump and dumps, and all of that. So that's where I'm sort of like, maybe it's not really getting pushed the right image of Web3 to the mainstream, because they're not, again, like Var was saying, you're not hearing about these hundreds of coins. It's all just you hear about Bitcoin and then you hear about the scams, and that's kind of it, really.
No, you're not wrong.
That president getting in, they're trying to impeach a president too. That didn't help. Those are the type of narratives you hear right now.
No, it's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy. I am surprised. Listen, I am surprised. Listen, and I'm for it. Listen, man, I think that he needed to come in and like stir the pot a little bit. Sure. Like, I don't mind that. Like, I think sometimes everyone needs that. But what I am surprised is to launch the token right before you go into office is pretty ballsy, I have to admit. Like, that's pretty like, I was thinking the SEC was just like the whole thing was just going to come hammering down. But I mean, it is what it is. Well, I'll tell you this. I think the one thing that's important to talk about, if we're going to have this, be a topic that people can actually digest, is nobody in this particular space has run away yet with being the Web3 company. I want to stress that too, to all our listeners, almost 200 people already. It's crazy. Love you guys. You guys are absolutely epic for tuning in. But people don't realize that no company's exactly run away. We don't have a Google yet. We don't have a Microsoft yet. We don't have an Apple yet. We don't have any of these companies. And right now, if you look at the standard stock market, every day, does the average person trade stocks, right? No, most people will have a broker or an investment, and they'll just say, hey, listen, buy into an ETF. More importantly, most people will probably just say, hey, I'm just going to buy into the S&P 500 because it increases 10% guaranteed year over year for the last God knows how many years. So like, that's the safe investment for most people. If it's a thing where you're swing trading and you're constantly having to be involved in that over and over and over again, that's not something that's really appealing to the average everyday person. And I don't think Web3 has found that voice yet that appeals to the average everyday person. So like, when people are coming through, for example, like, when Google hit with Gmail, everybody had Gmail. It was a big part of it. The search engine, it was a big part of it. I don't think a breakaway technology has come about yet to where people are like, oh, wow, I use this every single day in my life. Now, what I think is going to be more important that we're going to see in the future is a lot of these major companies will probably start launching, I can almost guarantee launching their own tokens as regulations relax and it becomes a viable option. They're going to look, it's all about making money for these companies, right? They want to find ways, just like people. Right now, meme coins, as Leb said, suck the liquidity quite literally out of everything. So because of that, all of the hype and the attention has been put into meme coins, because that's just, the way it is when you're in that cult era. Like, when you're in the early stages of a space, of a demographic, of a new technology, people are looking for ways to manipulate that, to change that, to profit off that. But what I think we're going to see more and more is, as that begins to die down, which it's always going to be there, just like NFTs, which we'll get into next, bridging, all those great topics, I think people will realize that these institutions will start adopting ways where they can create unique experiences for their users. For example, the big one was with NFTs a couple of years ago, when we saw festivals, the Coachellas, etc., accepting NFT passes. Like, people were getting digital passes. Now, they don't consider it an NFT, right? Because when I buy tickets to go to a concert, what do? I usually go on Ticketmaster or something. I buy my ticket online. It gets sent to me in an email. So it's the same thing. Like, they may not look at it as a digital asset. It's simply a digital ticket. But use cases like that are going to be the ones that really move the space forward, as well as institutions saying, hey, imagine if they found out, which is going to happen, if someone could say, hey, listen, you get 20% off or 10% off a discount if you buy a subscription with, company A utilizing their token. So let's say I'm a platform and I provide services like, here we go, using StreamYard, and saying like, hey, they're like, if you buy a subscription for a year using, Stream token, whatever it might be, that's not only a way for them, if they can figure out their taxation and all that other good stuff, but that's a strong way for people to, move forward and create profit for their organizations as well as for individuals. Because I can promise you that if this law goes through that Trump's trying to pass, where there's no income tax, like, and we kind of rely on tariffs, like, holy shit, I can promise you organizations will be rolling it. Crypto would absolutely, and I'm going to say this ahead of time, I've been having this conversation with people. If that gets passed, crypto is going to explode in a way that you can never even comprehend. Like, in a way, Bitcoin will easily shoot to 1 million, no problem. No income tax. Can you imagine the things that people are already trying? What are people already trying to do with crypto? Taxing? What? Like, you know what I mean? It would just absolutely be nutty. But
it's not capital gains.
I mean, listen. There is definitely capital gains involved in that for sure, but you know how people are, man. Their organizations are going to find ways to work the system. That being said, next thing I wanted to get into, a big topic of the day, Sonium, A-Star. Right now, there's a mass movement. A lot of these great projects like A-Star Degens, Apex Chimps, a lot of these guys are moving over to Sonium because it is really hot topic right now. A lot of major organizations are seeing what's going on here. Solana has always been the Las Vegas, the gambling, the casino of Web3. You've had Ethereum, really the academic center, infrastructure, technology base is a very devy community. But Sony is really centering itself as that entertainment factor, right? And I think that that's really crucial, because at the end of the day, entertainment is going to be the way, at least from my particular point of view, that you're going to see mass onboarding happen. So talking about the bridging, talking about A-Star, talking about Sonium, I do want to jump into that with you, Elon. Are we moving towards a truly multi-chain future, or will one chain dominate in the long run? How do you feel about that? I'll start with you, Elon, and then we'll move over to Var and Leb.
Thank you. So I believe in a multi-chain future. That's why I started NFT Bridges. I think that more and more chains will become more specialized and will do certain things better than other chains, or with more volume, with more liquidity than other chains. And being able to have an asset, regardless of what the asset is, if it's a fungible token, if it's an in token, if it's an NFT, or whatever the future is going to bring us, on the chain that you choose to, have the ability to monetize that asset in the most advantageous ways for the user, is the way of the future. Now, there will be consolidations. I think there are chains that might be dropped by users for whatever reason, and there are chains that will merge with others and do different things. But in general, I think that we have to think about blockchain as we think about email. I mean, you can send an email to any address on Earth. It doesn't have to be Gmail to Gmail or whatever. So it will need to be the same. The user experience of users on Web 3.0 needs to be so convenient, so I would say simple, that nobody has to think about. All those seed phrase logins and all those other things need to go away somehow. And when we manage to do that, then we have a chance to actually bring in the billions that are not joining us right now. So I think that in general, there will be many chains, many more than we have now, and some of them will be specialized, and we need the flexibility to actually transfer our assets to wherever it makes sense to hold them.
So Var, about you. So this is huge. So like A-Star Degens was like the biggest project over there. You guys were, kicking ass over there on A-Star. Like this is a big move. There's a lot going on. I mean, talk to us about what that's like for you, the experience of going from A-Star, how that's all been. And I definitely want to get your thoughts on the bridging aspect and how you feel about that as well.
Yeah, so I'll definitely get to bridging. Just to kind of piggyback on what was just said too.
Yeah,
sure. I do think it's going to be multi-chain. I think really what it's going to be is the chains that allow themselves to have interoperability and those features enabled, such as using technology like the super chain with the OP stack, or like Polkadot, where the interoperability is like a key feature. I think as long as that technology is adopted, I just think it just needs to be streamlined where it's not as complicated to switch from chain to chain to chain, and there's not as much friction. But once the technology gets there, I do think once it gets seamless, that's going to be a big deal. But yeah, in terms of the bridging, that was the second question. In terms of the bridging, I think it's about visibility. You want to go where the people are going to be. And because Sony's going to be the entertainment layer, distribution layer, they're going to have a lot of attention. You do definitely want to be where the liquidity, the people, the public, the entertainment is going to go. But there's also, so for us, I've been recently talking to the other council members, and like, to give you an example, there's other things also think about, because when you built a project on A-Star Network and now you're going to Sony, there's certain features you have to make sure. So one of the things that we have to be careful of is we have a lot of features that our NFTs have. We can, we have community airdrops that happen quite often. We have
shout out. We just hit over 200 people. Just tuning in there, everybody. What's up, guys? If you're tuning in, you're locked in today for NFT sessions. We're doing NFT Frontiers, Cross-Chain Gold Rush, talking about bridging the big movement from A-Star to Sonium right now. Go ahead, Var. Take it away.
Absolutely. So we have a lot of features with our NFTs, that makes them very popular, such as the airdrops for the community. We have voting. We're very involved with being able to use the NFT to be able to do voting. So there's all these different things that goes with it. So we got to know how that bridge affects being able to vote on A-Star, to be able to do some of these on-chain things, and to make sure that once we start to migrate the different NFTs or enable that something else doesn't go missing. Because the voting aspect for a DAO is very important. It's how the community's involved and how we get things passed, with, community proposals and things of that nature. So we had to make sure that it doesn't impact people's ability to be able to participate in the DAO. So we have to do the checks and balances to make sure that the migration to go from Sony to go from A-Star to Sonium, and just to make sure that we're kind of thinking of things that could come up before they happen. But it's definitely a process, but it's just the right way to do it, and we want to try to do it in a way that we're forward thinking, and that we're not so caught up in just rushing that now we messed up something that's important on the DAO, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. I'm going to jump to you next, Leb, but before we do, I got some, anybody that wants to jump in on these, feel free to jump into, because I'm going to get into it now. Like, the next questions that I'm going to start asking, I think is going to be interesting for Elon and you guys as well, because they're going to be difficult ones, because they're topics that people want to talk about, like, spread out liquidity and things like that. Leb, how do you feel about it? The bridging over, the whole process of going through this, the Sonium move, like, what are your thoughts on that? How does that align for what Apex chimps are doing?
So yeah, in terms of interoperability, like, first of all, my opinion is, chains shouldn't compete; they should connect with each other. Like, but use the chain. Use Ethereum for OpenSea, then use A-Star to transact. And then in terms of bridging, like, I know that we're in talks with NFT bridges right now for migrating our collection. Our collection is built using the Remark standard, which makes it slightly more complicated for us to be able to bridge. But you know, it is. We would love to be able to tap into this market. That is Sonium. We see, you know, so many new exciting projects building here. You know, there's already a huge user base. It's got so much media attention, and there's so much you know, there's so much openness to collaborate with different projects. You know, it's and there's a bit of a first mover advantage here in terms of we're still at the ground floor. You know, and things are still being created. The processes are still being embedded. Yeah, and we just see this as a, you know, this chain as kind of the center hub for innovation, for excellence, and we want to get involved. We want to, you know, establish our brand here. We want to collaborate with everyone on this call right now, and we just all want to, you know, rising tides shifts all boats. We all want to, you know, we all want to share to say grow the pie, and then just have, you know, everyone take their piece, and everyone win together. It's not a competition. We can make this a game where it's not a zero-sum game. We can make it that so we all win together, and that is how, you know, that would be my optimal kind of future for how I see Sonium.
Okay. Well, I'll say this before I jump into my next question, which is really probably more stir the pot a little bit. I do agree. I think that, don't get me wrong, the goal is cross-chain, right? So I talk about this. Shout out to our CTO, Nick St. Germain. He was like a senior over at EA Games. The guy is a rock star. We've had this conversation. Is multi-chain in the way that people want it possible right now? We're getting there. It's a lot closer than it's ever been. There's still a lot that has to go into that before it's secure, which we'll talk about in a little bit. There's a lot of things that people have to realize of what does that mean? What does it look like? But it brings me to this question, which I wrote down, which I think is pretty important. Is true composability across chains realistic, or are we always going to be dealing with siloed ecosystems? This is pretty crucial. And the reason why is because when you look at the Web3 ecosystem, there is very much that people live in a fishbowl. It's just the truth. Like, I've had conversations with people that had no idea, like they truly believe their chain was like the best thing since sliced bread. And there's a lot of things that's going on other organizations and chains as well. You know, it's just the truth. You got to admit that. Like, there's chains that have incredible speeds. There's chains that specialize in different features. And right now, like, I get it. It's about first movers principle. It's about getting in there. It's about building these things. But how do we avoid being in that siloed ecosystem? Like, Elon, this is basically what you're building and made your whole life about here at this point. So what are your thoughts on this particular thing?
So I think that we started NFT Bridges because we figured out that every chain right now is a universe. I mean, and chains are getting communities around them by creating, you know, the notion that they are the best and there's something very special, and that the community needs to join because of whatever reason the chain gives. And then there's this fake patriotism, you know, the MAGA of the chain, where you know, if I'm an ETH person, I hate Bitcoin because Bitcoin doesn't have a smart contract, and if I'm on Solana, then everybody else is a liar, etc. So I think that actually reduces the liquidity in the market. Definitely in NFTs, I believe it's also in DeFi. And if you manage to get over that, if you actually manage to look at the whole ecosystem as something that you can use, you know, on a daily basis, whatever things that you need to do, and you just kind of use the best tools for the purpose that you need to use it, then the chain agnostic thing becomes less important, and things like bridges and things like smart contract that lets you deploy somewhere and use it everywhere are going to be the norm. So I think it's basically unavoidable. And for us to participate in that is something that I believe makes a change in, you know, in this Web 3.0, sorry, Web 3.0 world, and our ability to secure those transactions is what makes us different than other bridges. I think part of the issue of being multi-chain is most of the bridges have been hacked severely. And the bridges are the most vulnerable place on Web 3.0.
What's the challenge? What's the challenge, Elon, of making blockchain bridges more secure? Can you talk about that a little bit, since you guys are really kind of on the forefront of that as well?
Yes, so I think that, again, that's not all bridges, but most bridges were centralized at least to some extent. So when something is centralized, you just need to kind of figure out where the center is and then break into it. And some people are just great hackers. They're really good in doing that. And when they're dealing with fungible token bridges, which is like 98% of the bridges, I think. Most of the bridges are basically fungible token bridges, and some of them also move NFTs around as a secondary business just because they can. And so you get in, you steal, I don't know, 100 ETH, 200 ETH, whatever is in there, and you go to Binance and you exchange it, and then you go and you retire in the Bahamas or whatever. So that's something that people do. I mean, and it happened many times before, and people are suspicious of bridges, and they should be. I'm suspicious of bridges, but I think what we did something slightly different. To begin, we are not moving fungible tokens. So when you steal fungible tokens, you can go to a mixer, you can mix them and then sell them. It's really easy. You cannot mix an NFT. An NFT is unique. It's really easily tracked, and if you steal, Asta digit number 67, it's really easy to know where it is, in which wallet it resides, and you can inform all the markets not to touch this Asta digit because it's stolen.
Because so blacklisted,
yeah. So it's kind of easy to fight it, I would say, and it's less profitable and much more complex than just doing fungible tokens. So that's why I think NFT bridges in general, not as a company, are less prone to hacks just because of that reason. But what we did something completely different. We actually joined the Chainlink build program, and we instituted CCIP, which is the most secure cross-chain protocol out there, into the foundation of the bridge. And all transactions happen through CCIP. So you know that the Chainlink validators network is looking at the transaction, validating it. It's a highly decentralized network. And you know that your NFT is secure while it's being bridged to the next chain. So we did it we did it in order to make sure that we don't get this fiasco where the bridge gets hacked, and then we will be done. I mean, it only needs to happen once, and then nobody will use this bridge anymore.
Okay, interesting. So for you, Var, I have a question for you now. This one's going to be a little bit more nitty gritty. So how does liquidity fragmentation impact the success? Like, think about it. With everybody fragmenting liquidity, and we're seeing, moving across all these chains, there is a set amount of users, right? So if we're looking at 600 million, whatever that number was, of people that hold crypto, apparently, if you look at how many people are utilizing some of the things that are within this ecosystem, building until we get to a point where there is enough users, there's enough TVL, there's enough locked in, because there's a lot of chains where they have great technology, they have a great foundation, they have great things going on. There's just simply not enough TVL. There's just not enough of the action there. So it forces healthy competition, where there's nothing wrong with that. But how do you solve the issue of liquidity fragmentation? And do you think that's a problem right now, or is that something that we're slowly coming out of? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so make sure I got my mic on. Yeah. So I do think this is an issue right now, because right now there's only limited funds. So what's happening, and what's essentially happening, since there's a certain amount of money out there, people just hop from chain to chain based on where they feel like they can make the most money, instead of there being new users and more adoption and new funds coming in. What happens is one chain gets drained of all of the resources, and people hop to another one, whatever the hot narrative is. So
how do you solve that though? Like, and maybe it's not even solvable, like, and that's okay, but what do you think is a solution for something like that? I mean, what are your thoughts when you think of that?
Yeah, so it kind of piggybacks off of what we were just talking about with bridges and accessibility and ease of being able to go through. And so I think it comes down to it's going to come down to standards. I think there's going to be, at some point, just like the internet and stuff like that, there's going to end up being a technology that ends up being the industry standard that gets adopted. And once that starts to happen and everybody has a similar compatibility of some sort, I think that will be a big hurdle once people start to say, okay, this is the best solution that we're going to use for our particular industry. So it helps with this fragmentation, that it helps with people, because there's so much new technology coming out now, and now you got to learn something new and new chain and now new feature. Once there starts to be more of like a leveling out of what people start to use and adopt, and familiarity, I think that's when you start to help with that, because then you don't get funds and assets stuck on a chain, but there's also money opportunities with arbitrage.
Yeah. I'm about to say that's a whole other ball game. The first thing that came to my mind is the degen. Because listen, a lot of people don't. There's the game, and then there's how this game actually works behind the scenes, and people gatekeep that. I hate that shit personally. I like to rip the Band-Aid off. People think I'm crazy. They're like, "Why are you telling people?" It's like you're giving the inside information.
Yeah.
People arbitrage stable coins. Yes, people arbitrage stable coins. And people don't realize that. Yes, when that stable coin hits like 99 cent, whatever, that's slight. It's not a depeg technically, but if you ask me, it is. But when that is slight adjustment is when, moving across other chains. I see people do that all the time. It's just, will that happen with NFTs as well? Of course it will. So that's my only biggest thing is how do we have like a universal, you know what I mean? Like you could still have your individuality, but we live in a space where a lot of chains and a lot of people are very protective of their technology. They're protective of their community. And I find it interesting to think to myself, if Ethereum, right, says, listen, they're trying to do the EVM thing, but Solana wants to do the Rust thing, the Solana thing. So what happens in that case? Like I personally, I think that's the biggest issue right now that a lot of people don't realize, like, it's going to be a problem in the future because everybody wants to become profitable. And there's nobody looking to say, look what Cosmos did, et cetera. Like, what is going to be that underlying thing that allows, people to basically say it doesn't matter anymore? And that's what I think is the hard thing, but the hot topic.
Yeah, I've noticed this a long time ago. One of the reasons why I made the YouTube Polkadot specialist was because I was real big into Polkadot because of the interoperability, and I thought they were going to be the layer that connected everybody with interoperability, and being that particular one of those technologies that would be the new Web3. I think that's even where the Web3 term actually initially started, was with Gavin Woods and the Polkadot side of things. And so, I definitely think this interoperability layer and this layer that allows everybody to communicate and move assets freely so the stuff don't get stuck, is extremely important, but those that understand arbitrage and understand, one person's trash is another person's treasure.
That's right. So here's the thing though, the name of the game, for people don't realize, it's the same reason why Luca Nets would abstract, like people want transaction fees. Let's just be honest. The way all this works is transaction fees. Like these chains make money, more people that are spending transactions, the better. So I find that's the one thing that, like I said, once again, I find it hard because a lot of chains are going to be like, well, hey, I want to be the master of my own universe, my own user base, in control of that, which is ironic in a world where decentralization is supposed to be the key to that. So I think finding, a decentralized technology or a layer that can be there where people are saying like, hey, it doesn't matter where you're at, but at the same time, it's not just driven solely by monetary gain, because that's one of the problems I think right now with the space. I think because it's so financially focused in a way, it makes it no different than the stock market. And for most people, as we said earlier, that's just not appealing, right? Like if you're coming in and you're just playing a game, like I think that it shouldn't even matter, which I'm going to ask Leb about this next. I want to get your thoughts, Leb. I don't think it should even matter, that word. I don't even think it should be brought up. I think wallets inevitably is going to be a part of an email account. I think, for instance, when you log in with our thing right now, like we don't even focus on wallets anymore. Like that's like a thing of the past for me. So now I think it's more say, how do you abstract that experience to where if you were to go on a game right now and me and you were talking, say, yo, you ever heard of that A-Star Degen game or those A-Star Degen guys that collectively like, oh yeah, I heard of that. I don't even think blockchain should come up in a conversation. Be like, oh, what's their website? Oh, it's over here. You check it out, and you're just like, oh, cool. Just no different than if you go to FYE or you go to some collectible shop and you're just going to collect shit. Like, I think that is where we need to get to. That we're not there yet. I do want to ask Leb. I mean, how do you feel about this particularly? This is something you guys have been around for a little while as well. So, this has got to be something that is on the forefront of your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Like user experience is definitely one of the biggest barriers to adoption. That is one of the biggest complaints that we have seen, especially with the remark standard, is that it is just too complicated to use. So I know there is work ongoing to kind of make this experience, just one click here, and as you said, you have exactly what you need. And like I love to look at I know probably maybe going off topic, but I love to look at pudgy penguins as the kind of perfect example.
Yeah, I love it. You're not this is let it go.
Yeah, like they were just a simple NFT, but now they managed to expand. They have merch, they have toys, they're in the media, they're launched at Walmart, Amazon.
Luca, mind you, by the way, Luca was also, a lot of people don't know this. So Luca was already like an 8-figure e-commerce guy. Like, a lot of people don't know his money. Like, wow. He had money in crypto. Yeah, a lot of people don't know this. So like, Luca came into the game fucking rich already. Like, let me be very clear. When he bought Pudgy Penguins, for those that remember or was around for that, like, God, I feel like I'm getting old now. I'm Web3 old at this point. It's so terrible. But the point is like, a lot of people talk about that, like they came in and they were just crypto. No, he was e-commerce rich. Like, he had that e-com generation money, and that was, everybody that remembers that era with ClickFunnels and everything that you went on with Facebook was like led to some shop where you were forced to buy something. But go ahead, Lev.
Yeah, so no, it's just I think the NFT has to have utility, and that is how you keep new people coming in, word of mouth, and then just being cross-chain just gives you a greater audience to market yourself to. And yeah, like okay, I touched at the start that X-Chimp, the X stands for cross-chimp, so we're aiming to go cross-chain. So right now we're on Astar. That's one of our EVM chains. A small bit of alpha, not including the Sonium migration or bridge. In our opinion, we solved this issue with what the current technology allows us. So we're planning on kind of airdropping another version of our cross-chimp on another 2 EVM chains. So that is how we solve the issue of going cross-chain. So you have one X-chimp on Astar, and now you will get airdropped and an additional 2 X-chimp on 2 different EVM chains. So that is us kind of innovating and experimenting to see, okay, what can we do here? How can we connect the dots? How can we get to a broader audience? And on Astar, we use DApp staking to generate items. We're planning on being able to bridge these items between the different EVM chains to kind of create an item economy that way. So that is how we came up with a solution for cross-chain with the current functionality of the technology available to us right now.
Okay. Funny enough, this brings up to a topic which I want to ask first Noodle and Sleazy. Guys, I mean, how do you feel as users within the space? Like, user experience, Noodle, I'll start with you. Like, it's a big deal. Like, seeing interoperability and people struggling going across chain. Like, what are your thoughts on this? Weigh in on this.
Well, I guess for the user experience, especially going in cross train, there's a lot of, what's the word?
Did you just say cross train?
No, cross chain. Yeah,
I smiled to myself too when you did that, so I appreciate the humor in the morning. Thank you.
Is it like CrossFit?
But this is I guess there's a lot of saturation. I think from sort of like, if we're talking user experience, like we even mentioned earlier, I think Vi, you mentioned it. There's so many coins and tokens and everything. So I guess from that sense, I guess user experience is very, very overwhelming in some parts. You don't really know, if you're not in the know, what to invest in, when to sell, when to dump, like all of that stuff. It's kind of, I think it's a bit much. I think that's where the struggle's coming in. And now obviously you can identify certain tokens with certain chains. And then the idea of then going cross chain, so it's all just sort of getting pushed out further and further.
Okay.
I don't know. I guess there's sort of a place there where the general user could find it a bit confusing.
I agree with you, Sleazy.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, Sleazy? I wouldn't, you know what I mean? You're in there every day dealing with this.
Yeah. So my biggest thing is not necessarily anything like technical. I think it's just design. Like, I think just a lot of Web3 companies don't know how to properly design for user experience. Like, the vast majority of time when I'm trying to check out a new project, I look at the website, and I'm just like, I see a million different things, and I've been like in the Web3 for quite a few years already. Like, I know all of the nitty-gritty, at least as much as an average Web3 user would know. And I'm like, I don't want to look at all this. And it's not even time. It's like, I hate my life when I have to learn how a new layout is structured. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. I know it will take me like only 30 seconds, but I am absolutely miserable when I do this. So like, yeah, I think for user experience, it's just about learning a thing or two from how Web2 designers actually design their websites.
So I think it's a really good point. There's also technology a lot of people don't realize, like layer 0 is one. Like, I think we're getting to a point where a lot of people don't realize you're able to move assets across different chains. It's how that liquidity is broken up. And then once again, I think you all made a point. Noodle made a good point with saturation. I think we're at that point too. I think figuring out, like we talked about earlier, different technologies and ways to do that. Shout out to everybody. We're almost at 300 people right now. It's crazy, man. These things get wild. People tune in. That being said, I do want to get in a little bit with NFTs and real world assets and things like that, because they are hot subjects right now. Elon, I know this is big for you. You know, you guys are a bridging company, and you're one of the ones that are actually cracking the code on how to do this the right way. I was going to ask you, how does real world assets tokenization impact DeFi liquidity? Do you think like there's an impact there from real world assets? Like, how is that going to be tied? Because that's an interesting subject. There's a duality there going on.
So I don't know how much it's being seen already, but the way that I look at it, and we're talking to a bunch of companies that are creating real world assets, and at the end it's an NFT at the end, and that NFT can be bridged, but this NFT actually has a bunch of data that is sometimes off-chain, sometimes different, so the bridging aspect of it is much more complex and needs to be done in very calculated and careful way. We are not bridging RWA assets right now, but I think that RWA is one of the bigger utilities for NFTs. And just as I think Var mentioned before, is that you need to have utilities with assets like NFT in order to kind of break through into the...
What's a real utility to you though? Like, we hear this word of so much, and like to me it's become like an eye roller where it's like utility. If NFTs are going to become the same status as physical assets, like give me an example of a utility that you think, if you can, that is something that's really noteworthy, that's worthy to say, oh wait, this is worth taking a look into because it could affect, you know, the experience in life of the user.
Yeah, so I can tell you that there are a lot of people are looking into turning the government documents into NFTs.
That's a good one.
And
like, it's Brazil, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, Brazil.
Yeah. Okay. I want to add something to that when you get a chance to.
Yeah. Go ahead. This one's going to be good because Elon, let me set a premise for this real quick because I like that one. So for those that don't know, Elon just had a big, debrief in the Oval Office with Trump a couple days ago or last week. And what it was is I learned something new. Apparently only 10,000 people a month can retire. And they were like, wait, why? Why that arbitrary number? And it's because the way that they still do the documentation, they've been trying to apparently digitize the Social Security and all the documentation since the 80s, and it's in a mine. And yes, that word is accurate. A literal fucking mine.
Literal mine.
A literal mine. Where they have to go in an elevator and grab these assets. I hope that gives you some ammunition, Elon.
And only have so much staff that can do it. You know, it's like literally
700. They said there's only 700 people for what, 400 million people in America. Go ahead, Elon.
So again, I think that those are huge challenges. And long time ago, like 30 years ago, I did a stint in a document management company.
Okay.
And I can tell you that actually going to a large institution and digitizing all of their paper into digital document is a huge task. And that's only for one company. When we're talking about governments and
oh my God,
population, this is just huge projects that are going to take, even in the best scenarios, like many years to actually be completed in any semblance of manner. So, but again, I don't see a world where it doesn't happen. I don't see a world when we are all using papers to kind of show our title to our house, our driving license, or many other documents that are essential to everyday life. I believe that all of those will be converted to some type of protocol which will be RWA driven. And I think that just like, and that's also part of decentralizations, because right now the government is holding all those things. And I think when you move those things to the blockchain, that you have, validators, you have people who validate that this is yours, and decentralization is probably a more secure way to hold those assets. And when you have them as an NFT or equivalent to an NFT, it doesn't really matter. You need to have the ability to choose. I want to have it on that chain or on that chain, and I want to have it here or there, and I want to log in that way or the other way. And we will have it. I mean, I think that the world is moving, and I think that it will accelerate now in the next few years into a more decentralized manner of what we are looking at right now. And all of us being blockchain builders and people who talk to communities on blockchains, etc., will have at least a small part in it.
That's a good take. Go ahead, Var. I know you had something for that.
Yeah, and this kind of harkens back to what we talked about earlier. People are going to have crypto and not know they have crypto. It's when we start to get away from our native tongue of crypto teas.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Well, talk about Web3 and NFTs and fungible tokens and all this language. We have our own language.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, people are going to have crypto and not know it. So let me give you an example. Use case right now is in California. All the titles for vehicles, there's millions and millions and millions of titles for vehicles on Avalanche. What I'm saying? I'm pretty sure these people don't know nothing about crypto. I'm pretty sure millions and millions of people don't know anything about this type of technology that is actually a real-world asset that's digitized on Avalanche. No, people don't know that. So I think that's what's going to end up happening is people are going to be utilizing crypto. And it's just going to get to a point where it's just going to be like internet stuff. You don't know everything. You just know that, one other thing too, I wanted to say is,
no, go ahead.
I went to an NBA game.
Okay.
And I had an app.
Who was it?
Yeah, I went to a Magic game earlier this year. I went to a Magic game. Hey, we will listen and not judge. But anyway. But so I went to a Magic game, and the way they have their tickets. Now this isn't crypto, but I can see this. Where they got the digital ticket, where it gets scanned and all of the other stuff. I can see concerts and tickets and things like that, where you have access to VIP and different things of that nature. Where the actual crypto, the NFT is like a pass that you get in. That's
happening now. People do that now. Exactly. That's a big thing now. Yeah.
But I see that getting more and more. But just like the Avalanche situation with the titles, It's just going to be
something
that they see and they don't even know that that's actual crypto. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
I agree. I think there's a couple things that have to be said for that, and you guys can anybody can jump in on this if they want. Here's the reality. I don't think first off, you need to not know what the hell is going on there, right? You just has to be able to do what it is that you needed to do. So, like, for example, first off, I think anybody out there listening, shout out to everybody. We're at 297 people. You guys are absolutely crazy, man. We love you guys, man. They lock in for the hour, man. We love you guys. But the reality is when you're looking at something big like, documentation or doing something with the government, a big thing right now is solving problems, right? Like that's an issue that Web3 talks about, but it really feels more superficial right now. Like it has to solve a problem. So, for example, if somebody was to use a technology, develop a company right now and go to the government and say, hey, listen, we're working with Ethereum Foundation or we're working with Avalanche Foundation, whatever it is, and you develop, because Arweave does this with data. Like they have something called Blockweave, which is really cool. You should check it out. I think it's just interesting technologies. And being able to store data, right? So that was a problem in blockchain for a long time. And it brings me to my point where we first need to solve the problems in blockchain sometimes before we start solving Web 2 problems. And I think sometimes in this space we get ahead of ourselves because we don't realize we're still laying the foundation and the infrastructure here. But as we start to do that, creating institutions and these businesses that are catered towards solving real world problems and removing that language barrier is key. And I don't see almost, if any, organizations trying to tackle that. Yes, there are some out there, yes, but there's not many that are doing it well. Like, there's a lot of people that are in the space and they want to develop gaming or they want to develop social fire, they want to develop whatever it is that they want to develop. But imagine the conversation you would have if you go to an institution. For example, I worked in logistics for a really long time on a higher level. And trust me, when you're looking at international trade and you're like, it's a whole nother ball game. And one big issue that people have all the time, because it's not a pretty industry, is, losing shipments and things going missing and tracking all these things. You would think that tracking would be as good, being in 2025. And don't get me wrong, there's some incredible technologies out there, but it's not as good as people think. So, having things like blockchain involved for stuff like that's a big thing. And I think when we start getting to that point where it's more about execution, solving a problem, here it is, that's where people are going to start to win. Hey, Leb, do you have any thoughts you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, you just inspired me actually. You mentioned record keeping, for in a heavily regulated environment, like for audits, NFTs I think would be perfect. Yeah. And I in my previous professional experience, I would have worked in that kind of logistics, supply chain area as well. So audits straight away came to my mind. But for me, okay, one more thing. So for solving real world problems, I hate when people say you can put your land deed in an NFT and transfer ownership of your house that way. That is just, for me, you're creating a problem there. It's just overcomplicating. But yeah.
What if you lose the wallet key? Like, what if you lose the wallet key to your fucking house?
You're homeless.
So, but then who takes the land then at that point as well? Is it just there now? Yeah.
Uncle Sam. But
Uncle Sam.
So
we mint it somewhere.
But yeah, reminted on Solana. But for me, I think it's not about solving like the scope of NFTs. It's so large. Like you can enhancing experience is where I think NFTs can create real impact straight away. So for example, I don't know if I know you're a combat sports fan, but karate combat, it's an up and coming organization, and they fully integrate Web3 with their experience. So they stream their shows on YouTube. They advertise their own coin. There's a thing called the karate token. You can buy shares in your favorite fighter. They really kind of.
That's cool as shit. Because I'm a massive UFC guy, so like that is like I'd be all in on that. Like,
oh man, crazy. Yeah, and I wish that I could get them over to, like, they've signed a contract with whatever chain they're on. I actually looked into trying to get them over to Polkadot. But yeah, like they really are pushing the limits in terms of what Web3, NFTs, tokens, gamification, fan engagement. They really are creating.
That would solve. Yo, Leb, do you know how a lot of people complain right now about how like fighters are underpaid and they put their lives on the line for very little money? Can you imagine what that could do for like somebody that is on the up and coming and they get their token and then people invest into that fight? Oh my God.
The possibilities are honestly endless. Like we're brainstorming right now and we're coming up with so many different potential solutions. It's crazy, honestly. And these, I wouldn't be looking for existing problems in my perspective. I'd be looking for new solutions or enhancing new experiences for existing, sports experiences. And like I look at the Premier League, you see like it's becoming normalized. You see Web3 sponsorships, on team jerseys in the grounds, Formula One. All the sports are getting into it now, and it's becoming more and more normalized. And another thing is that gambling is associated with all of these events, and obviously we're all degens here. We all love to gamble. Crypto, by its very nature, is gambling. So we're targeting the right audience with crypto, by targeting these sports events. So that is where I would focus personally. That is where I have a personal interest as well. So that's probably why I'm here.
No, I love it. So getting into the final, the nitty gritty, we're at 312 people. Shout out once again, guys. You guys are awesome. I will say this. So ownership, how do we see NFTs evolving beyond JPEGs though, right? Like right now we see it in the JPEG world. Do we think that it's always going to remain fractionalized? Like, because fractional or it's always going to be, remain where it's like, one person owns an NFT, because fractionalized NFTs are becoming bigger now. You can see what D-Gods did with 404s, which some people think is kind of just bullshit and hype. Go ahead, Ilan. How do you feel? Because this is huge. This is right up your alley.
It's definitely changing. It's definitely changing, and we're seeing it because we're taking to just different projects that are doing different things. The NFTs is an asset is already fractionalized in some instances, but it will be much more than that in the future. And the way that we see it is that we work with companies that are creating Web3 experiences where users have to or need to participate in order to gain tokens. And some of those experiences have to do with creating or owning fractions of an NFT. And I think that it's really exciting what those companies are doing, and I think that it's a great way to build following, interest, and usage of the specific token that they're trying to promote and move. And what we're working with them is how to actually have those fractions happen cross-chain as things move and evolve. So I think that as I'm looking at how people will own stuff and how people will invest, I think the ability to fractionalize and the ability to be able to sell the fraction, is actually not only to fractionalize, but actually to monetize the fraction is growing, and I think it's going to be a factor. I don't know how major factor, but it's going to be a factor.
You don't think that rabbit hole gets a little crazy though? Like for me, like I'm not really the biggest fan of 404s at the end of the day. I'm not. I think that they should be separate asset classes. Like, to each their own. I'm a libertarian, so I believe everybody should have the freedom to do whatever the hell they want. But the reality is like when you start getting into this world of like fractionalizing a single NFT, like I think of Pokemon and I'm like, gotta catch them all. So when I get a collection, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm trying to get like, collect something in the collection. But I almost feel like NFTs don't even really feel as much as that collection is. They're supposed to be collectibles, but if you ask me, it doesn't always feel like a collectible, because if I have to go to OpenSea and spend like 20 fucking grand for a CryptoPunk, it's like that's not achievable to me. And I think that's a barrier why a lot of people don't jump into NFTs as well that are collectible people. Like they would, but accessibility, man, it's once again, it gets into the financial aspect. It's so financially driven that it's like, if I just want to collect cool ass cards that are within like an everyday person is achievable for them to do, how the hell are they going to do that? But at the same time, on behalf of projects, that's a business. They have to keep it running, right? So how are they going to make it sustainable as well?
I think it's a different question. I mean, I concur with you. I want to buy this Pokemon. I don't want to buy 1.5% out of it or whatever, of course. But if the market is like that, quotes unquote, regular people cannot afford it, that's a way to participate. That's a way to participate and monetize. I mean, I think that just giving people the ability, just as I said before, to participate the way they can, the way it's possible to do it, it's important. So companies are looking into it, and we are not looking at ourselves, we're looking to work with fractionalized NFTs in the future.
That's cool. Anybody, Var, anybody want to jump in on that? I know we just reached 320 people, guys. We're at the top. We've been over a little over an hour, so I don't know what your guys' schedule looking like. I'm locked in. If you guys have some time, you let me know. We can keep it going for a little bit, or if you guys want to wrap up soon. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to community, people building a community around their particular NFT. But it's also come down to it's kind of like, I think of IP. You know what I'm saying?
There we go. That's a topic.
IP narrative. So that's one of the things I'm excited for Sony, when you start to get people that have an attachment to the NFT. There was a project that isn't doing as well now, but they were doing well in the last cycle, which was Vivi, when it was dealing with IP as well. Batman, Superman, Disney, and all that.
This has been a big thing with Pudgy. Luca, they pushed this heavy. Like, IP was something that was a part of their success that they targeted, and that's a reason why they had a lot of success.
Yeah, so it's going to come down to IP. It's going to come down to people to want to collect for some reason. So that comes down to storyline. That comes down to what else are they doing? Are they in video games? Is there a movie? Back in the day, I'm kind of aging myself a little bit, but back in the day, believe it or not, I was a big card player. I used to play this Japanese card game called Yu-Gi-Oh!
Okay, come on, bro. Everybody remembers, bro.
Yeah, Blue Eyes White Dragon, no?
Yeah, man. So I used to collect the cards and all that. But what did they do? Think about it. They had a TV show.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They had a game that was that people wanted to collect. Why? Because these things would give them new abilities and enhance their ability, or maybe give them an edge up on somebody else. So they created a reason to collect. Then they made it exciting. You had holographs, and they made it scarce because now you had ultras and rares, and you see what I'm saying? So it's creating a reason to collect. You would get new boxes because this new box had new mechanic. You see what I'm saying? So the collection is based on the need and based on the why. At the end of the day, it's going to be, why do people want to collect? That's what I want to say.
Listen, I don't think you're wrong. I think one thing that's important to note with all this as well is it's affordability too. People don't realize accessibility and affordability. Those are huge and not talked about enough. So for example, you just hit something that really hit home for me. So what Yu-Gi-Oh! Made Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And all these things so successful. Well, first off, I'm going to start with what I know, which is Pokemon, right? So I remember 94, I'm 35 years old. So in 1994, I remember when I went to school for the first time and it was banned, literally within 48 hours. That week when it came out, people were ripping cards out of your hands and people screaming, all types of crazy stuff. So the one thing that I think was cool though, and I look back on it in, hindsight and studying, how did that all play out? Well, think about it. So Saturday morning cartoons were big since the 70s, 80s, 90s, right? So first thing you do, they release this really cool show. There's a manga, there's anime, there's all types of stuff going on with that. And then it gets big enough to where you release a card game to make it sticky, right? You have to study the psychology of what they did. It was user stickiness. So the show was appealing. It captivated you. It got you involved. It had characters with backstories. It created an emotional connection to these people. And then when you had the cards, you were like, well, shit, I want to have a partner. It solved the problem of lonely. People wanted, think about how beautiful the idea of what Ash and Pikachu went through, where you have a best friend who's going to love you. It's like your dog, no matter what. I know it sounds crazy, but when you get deep into the human experience of what they did, they tied into emotions, into human experience. And that was powerful. And I think that is what Web3 is starting to do, but nobody has hit that mark yet. But that is going to be the key. I think as indie, for example, when I used to work in the music industry, which I still did for many years as an audio engineer, what I did realize is as the music industry evolved from like the whole Napster craze, labels were hit hard at first. I talk about this all the time. When Soulja Boy came out with like Superman, and if you guys remember Watch Me You, that was a big deal when that album and a lot of what he did was also doing stuff at home, like an indie studio. So when technology started to advance where people can get audio interfaces in their house and they can get, you used to be able to have to mix an album on tape, or if you had a giant SSL board, which cost you $250,000 or more, like that doesn't fit into your house. So when people started having these things brought into their home, that's what's going to happen. As technology starts to advance and people can create more like advanced IP things, like you're seeing with AI, like TV shows, episodes, which I want to ask Sleazy's opinion on this because he creates a lot of video content. Imagine what happens when we're getting into the realm of creating video content where people can consume paired with your NFTs. I don't think the solution is one thing by itself. I think the solution is it's a multitude of different things that when you pair them together, that is the winning combo. And I don't think we've exactly, solved the Rubik's Cube, so to speak, on that yet. Sleazy, how do you feel about that?
Just so I get like I'm not quite sure what you mean by like.
So IP, yeah. So video content, shows, creating content around NFTs, creating content around Web3, content creation in Web3 in the current state, and how that can add or amplify value of Web3 products, digital assets, etc.
Yeah, I guess to speak about it a little bit, because I've been producing quite a few videos.
Not enough people, one thing came to mind, I'm sorry, not enough people are doing that. Like, for instance, not many people do what we're all doing here, by the way, in Web3. Like, you see a couple people start a podcast. Like, there really is not many people, because people are scared to show their face. They're worried about, like, whatever it might be for different reasons. Like, and there's sometimes legitimate reasons. So, like, I think the space is still on that there's that barrier right there, you know what I mean? But go ahead, please.
It's like regarding like live shows and stuff like this, a lot of people actually are reluctant to show their faces, which I can understand. What I find ironic a little bit is that people are willing to part with their data to the big companies, but they're not willing to show their faces online, which I don't know. I mean, to each their own, but it seems like a little
anonymity though is a big part of Web3. Like for the longest time, Hustle had, like, I was anonymous, and it was only for simple reasons, just because I worked with, maybe a larger organization, and don't get me wrong, there is stuff that happens. I roll my eyes when people talk about the kidnappings and stuff like that, but like, it happened. Don't get me wrong, it happens depending on where you live and where you are. But like, once again, I do agree with you in a sense. Go ahead.
Yeah, and other than that, the content that I've been creating for the past few months is kind of like a little of my brainchild, because I found the curious thing that if you combine AI, so there's AI image generation, there is AI like ChatGPT, which helps create a script. Then there's AI that helps create like very short GIFs, like 5 seconds. If you combine all of this together, it's very easy to actually produce videos. Well, there's also voiceovers, of course. I cannot use really AI for voiceovers, because then it feels very fake. Like, the voice is the one thing that I don't think that should be handed over to the AI. But yeah, I kind of found this thing that it's actually very easy to make this. The most difficult part is actually coming up with the idea, like the base idea. Like, AI will do half the work for you, but you still can get to do like the other half. So really, that's what I've found the most interesting thing about content production in the current climate. You kind of like have to stay in the loop of what's happening, and really a lot of content production is like really knowing what the current trends, and then just using the existing techniques. Like, there's not really any need to reinvent the wheel. In my case, I sort of invented the wheel, but it's not really, because I just took parts of the wheel and assembled them together.
I think that's how most great. That's how most great things.
That's how crypto was started.
Yeah. Honestly, you're not wrong. Like,
they just took a bunch of different technologies that already exist, put them together, made Bitcoin. I mean, the technology is already out there. Cryptographic technologies and all that was already out there.
With Bitcoin,
added a bunch of stuff together and made Bitcoin.
what Nick Szabo and what all those guys were doing even in the 90s with BitGold and all that, like there's definitely been, crypto, people don't realize cryptography has been around for thousands of years. Like we've had this topic. We did a whole show, which is really cool in the past, about basically cryptography going all the way back to Egypt. And like it's pretty cool how you see people had the concept of these things formulating over periods of time. I will say this before we wrap in. Leb, I know you had something. You seemed like you unmuted for a second. Did you have something you wanted to weigh in on this? You there, Leb? I thought for a second. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. Now I can.
Oh, yeah. So a few points ago, you touched on the future of NFTs. Are they just JPEGs? And like there's different types of NFTs that exist. There's soul-bound NFTs. There's modular NFTs that can change. So, for example, for soul-bound, I know Sonium have a initiative where if you do 45 transactions on the network before a certain date this month, you will be airdropped a soulbound NFT that you cannot trade. It is soulbound to your account, and this will, speculatively, you'll be entitled to future perks as an OG Sonium user. So like I see that as a use case for NFTs. Also, like, to kind of give you a brief background on my project, we use Remark NFTs, which means that we can airdrop different equipables to the base NFT to make it fully customizable and fully unique. So my NFT could be completely different to your NFT, even though it's the same collection. And then like going forward, going forward to the future of entertainment or streaming or whatever, like cable television is a dying sector. Like everything's going to be moved online. It's going to be digitized. YouTube is the new TV. Content creator is the new hot topic. If you create a YouTube channel right now, you are printing money. It is a gold rush for content creators out there right now. So I can envisage a future where they create their own NFT collection. That is how you join. That is how you get exclusive perks from them. So what I'm trying to say is, like, people are clowning on JPEG NFTs now, saying NFTs are just a JPEG. Right click and save. There's your NFT. It's the same way that people clowned on Bitcoin, saying, "Oh, magic internet money. This is going to zero. Yep. This is worthless." And now it's 100K. So what I'm trying to say is, yeah, NFTs, they're way beyond just a JPEG now. There's so much innovation happening there. Stuff that hasn't even been thought of yet. Like, that is the future of NFTs.
Yeah, I love it. To wrap it up, like I said, I honestly, you can write.
Sorry, I completely agree with.
Go ahead, jump in, Elon.
Yes, I completely agree with what you said. I think that NFTs exploded in 2021, and they were really popular and exciting, and then they went down as every wave goes down. But I think that they definitely not have gone away, and I think that the type of innovation that we discussed here is kind of just the tip of the iceberg. There's much more that's happening and will happen in the future. And I think in a way, the way I look at it, the future is an NFT for many of us.
I don't disagree at all. I think, like I said, the biggest thing that we're seeing more and more is people integrate this technology into everyday things, and you're going to see it more and more. I think the reality is as we're getting away from the word and the buzzy stuff, you're starting to see real use cases, and it'll be no different than people dropping card packs and people collecting digital collectibles anywhere. But that being said, we made it to 350 people today. Listen, guys, like I said, it's always awesome. It's always a pleasure. We always have incredible people, incredible speakers. You guys, I mean, the feedback, the input of so many people that are building in this space. It's what you want to see. I think what we're going to continue to see. It is going to continue to grow. I do think NFTs, it's only just getting started. Like I said, I can right click and save on a title right now. Like, if I upload something on a scanner, I can right click and save. It doesn't make it any more valid, the title to the house. I don't automatically now own the house. So this is where a lot of this comes into case. I know it doesn't look pretty. It's not the most interesting thing in the world, but it's often the things that are the least appealing that when they eventually blow up, now all of a sudden everybody's interested in it. So, it's the same thing. I think we're going to continue to grow forward. You guys are absolute rock stars. Thank you for everybody that kind of came in today. I want to give everybody a last word. Look at the screen, kind of like Hot. I love Hot Ones. Have you everybody seen Hot Ones where like the guys eat hot sauce and they ask them like interview questions? Well, at the end, they always say, look into the camera, tell them what you're doing. What do you got going on in your life and all that? So Elon, I'm going to start with you since we started with you in the beginning. What's going on right now with NFT Bridges? Let everybody know, and then your outgoing statement and where they can check you out and find out everything that you guys are doing.
Thank you so much. We are really busy with moving the Asta Degens from Asta to Sonium. It's the project is in beta test right now on testnet, and I think the beta test will be open to Asta Degens community members very soon. We're very excited about that. We are launching our token, which is called Teleport Token. We are using a protocol called CCT, which will allow us to launch the token on numerous networks at one time. So we'll have liquidity on a bunch of networks together. The token, I believe, will be the spin wheel of the Bridges economy and will enable us and collections to actually move NFTs at a very affordable manner and secure across chains. We are launching our own NFT collections called the Ambassadors. The Ambassadors are at a website called ambassadors.art. They're very cool, I think. They were created by hand by an artist, and they are really unique. And when you mint an ambassador, you participate immediately in a raffle to get between 100 to 100,000 teleport tokens that are going to be airdrop into your wallet. And every time that you move an ambassador between chains, you participate in this drawing again. So if you want to support NFT Bridges, if you think that what we like is important, get an ambassador, and let's hope that you get 100,000 tokens. Only one person will get that.
Let's go, bro. Check them out. NFT Bridges. They're doing God's work over there, man. We're making things happen. Go ahead, Var. Tell them, you're the big dog, man. Tell them what you guys are doing, what you got going on, why do they need to check you out. We go from there.
Like you said, NFT Bridges is doing God's work.
Doing God's work. He's
doing God's work. You'll be blessed with it, brother. So, A-Star Degens. So we got a new website out. I got that long username on here right now because it's showing a new website, astardegensdao.com. So go ahead and check that out. Check out all the different utility when it comes to A-Star Degens. We talked a lot about pretty much digital ownership. The difference between blockchain and the difference between a JPEG that you could just, copy and paste and all that is with crypto, you can track ownership. Long story short, I know what I own because that's what the benefit of crypto is. You can track digital ownership. So by you getting your A-Star Degen NFT, you are showing that you have an asset and it's your representation of the community of A-Star.
Government can't seize your assets either. People can't seize your assets.
Right, exactly. And so you own it. And it pretty much NFT with at least the A-Star Degens is showing that you're part of the A-Star community. And hopefully now it'll be also the Sony community. And my vision, personally, I can't speak for everybody. There's 6 council members. So my personal vision that I personally would like to see is that this flagship collection of NFTs that was on A-Star also be the flagship NFTs for Sony. And that they be intertwined with a lot of different protocols and technologies that will open up new opportunities just for holding your NFT. So that's pretty much it. We got a lot going on. We got a newsletter. So go to the Twitter or the X account that shows all the different things that we have rolling out with our roadmap. And it's been always great to come on here and talk to everybody.
Oh, I love it. Listen, we love you, Var. I have one final question from you. Are you guys going to rock out? Is it going to be like A-Star Degens? Or are you going to do something different like Degen Apes? Do you ever guys see your guys' IP evolving in the future? Or, you know, because I know you guys are working towards multi-chain as well. Is it always going to be A-Star Degens? Or are you guys thinking that you're going to modulate? Like, what are your thoughts?
I have a lot of ideas.
Okay.
I have a lot of ideas. The issue is, you know, it costs money. You know, it costs money. So, yeah, I would love to see that. I have a whole slew of things that I would like to do, like when it comes to maybe having, you know, more functionality with NFTs, new NFTs that we meant, because these will be also different things that we can do to build our treasury, to be able to do more benefits to the community. So, yeah, I would love to personally, to be able to add more and more features to the NFTs. Matter of fact, one of my ideas initially before we decided to work with NFT Bridges was actually to keep a collection. It was similar to with X Chimps was talking about, where we would have my idea was actually to have a collection on A-Star that did one thing and another collection on Sonium to do another. That was initially what I was actually, you know, pushing for. I think it was easier to do the migration at the end of the day. Again, it's not all on me, because if it was all on me, we'd be like
all running around everywhere.
Nostrils out here, you know, having UFO spaceships and stuff, because we be doing all types of stuff.
I love it. Well, listen, thank you, man. As always, you're always a pleasure to have on. I love the feedback. I love the stuff that you're doing. And like I said, man, check them out, guys. If you love what they're talking about today, go check them out. Apex Chimps, man, what do you got going on? What do you want to tell the people where they can go check you out, and your final closing thoughts?
Thanks, brother. So yeah, right now so it took us over 2 years to get development finished and get our project finally live in production last month at the beginning of January. So we're not resting on our laurels. We're cooking up. I'm not going to hype Williams to say partnership. I can't give any more information there, but we're cooking up partnerships in the background. We're in initial discussions with NFT Bridges from a representative there to try and see if they can migrate remark standard NFTs. You know, there might be an option there, maybe no. Hopefully there is. We would love to get over to Sonium and collaborate with all you guys here. If not, maybe we can still do some sort of collaboration. You know, just so much, so many options out there. Yeah, and we're just gearing up for DApp staking now as well. The new DApp staking opens up in a few days in Aster. So if you stake with us, you will receive free NFTs, and you can find us on X. If you type in Apex Chimps, that's my username on X. You will find the link to the collection there. And if you have any questions, feel free to DM the team on X, and we will get back to you pretty quick. And yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. I think that's kind of it right now.
All right, you're the man. Thank you. All right, last in, Sleazy Noodle. What's up with you, Noodle, man? How's everything going, man?
Shout out yourself.
I was going to say my CV's a lot less impressive.
No, it's not. Listen, yours is. Well, what are you,
Chris,
thoughts?
It is. Chris, don't say that. It is. Yeah. I'm basically a content marketer. I'm working closely with a couple of Web3 brands and different companies working on their social media campaigns, sort of getting the word out there about various different projects, some real world investments, real world assets, working close with universities in the UK, helping people with projects in labs sort of get their projects seen and invested into. That's basically what I'm doing right now, along as working alongside Posse Studios, of course. Shout out.
You're the man.
I basically work under Sleazy. Sleazy tells me what to do, and
here
I am.
Now on your knees.
Yeah.
You're horrible. Whoa, pause.
Someone call HR immediately.
I am the HR.
And the villain was created.
Yeah. Wow.
So what about you, Sleazy?
Yeah. My biggest accomplishment is I'm above Noodle, so that's that's what
What-
not yeah, CMO at the Bossy Studios. I'm mostly in charge of everything going on with the marketing, a lot of partnerships. We have quite a few live shows, not just today, but more coming on. And as I've talked about just a bit before, I'm creating the content for Bossy. We will soon have a game night, quite regular.
I can't
We
wait.
will announce more about it later, but let's just say it's a D&D theme with one of our partners. And of course, once the first few game nights happen, with I'm sure resounding success, we will invite more partners to come and have a little, game night. It's not many people actually doing this. I don't know why, because game nights are pretty good for Discord. Like the Discords that are not Web3 do it quite a lot, and they are very popular. People love hanging out in VC, and yeah, look forward to it.
Okay.
Should we put a potential advertisement out for DM, by the way?
Yeah.
We're still looking.
I was saying maybe. So first things first. Listen, guys, I love you guys. It's your boy Hustle Hat, aka Chris. I think at the end of the day, what we got going on Posse Studios, we're having a lot of fun. Like Sleazy was saying, we got a bunch of things coming up right now. So we're doing the movie nights, which are going to be having some new lists of movie nights coming up, which is going to be pretty cool. Letting people vote on titles, things like that they want to see. The game nights, want to start doing some tournaments, some online gaming tournaments as well. I know me and Sleazy were streaming Rust and stuff like that, so it's going to be pretty dope. Stay tuned. Wanted on the mobile version as well is going to be coming out first. We're going to release that first, and we've done some alpha and beta testing opening in the public. It was awesome having everybody a part of that, just to run around, shoot each other, have some fun. So that's going to be really dope. That's coming up very soon. The partnership with Sonium's going really well. The marketplace, we're having a complete overhaul with the UI. We did a 24-hour testing for everybody. When the chain went live, we launched the very first AI agents. We have a complete AI agent launchpad, which we're really excited about to be coming out soon, called Yeehaw. Essentially, that's just kind of really where we're hammering home. Like for gaming and AI is really where our kind of forte is in content creation. Just knowing in the future that we can add value to people. We want people to be able to create their own things, to continue to do things that they can do with their own ideas and their own tools. We're just kind of there more as a resource. So excited for that. Some of the things we're experimenting with is creating characters in the green level creation, people being able to have things tuned, especially to their particular unique experience. You'd be able to manage X accounts, smart wallet management. The AI agent thing is going to be really cool. Our flagship NFT collection, everybody keeps asking us about this. We have not launched it yet. It will be the Posse Pioneers. It will be AI avatars. It will be AI agents powered. We'll get more details into that. I can't give you any more. People have been trying to squeeze it out of me, but long story short, it'll be based upon floor pricing. It'll be based upon things that kind of get the community to rally together to support it. Other than that, the NFT marketplace, we have the flagship one on Sonium right now. It is live. We're doing some massive overhauls and updates. Like I say, guys, between this week and next week, there's going to be a complete new UI, complete new experience for everybody out there. So stay tuned. The content's still pumping. You guys are absolute rock stars. Like I said, I don't really have much else other than that. But until next time, baby, peace.